Hi, everybody. Erica here from In the Company of Cards with a guest. I'm so excited. This is Heatherleigh Navarre. It's so good to see you, Heatherleigh.
Oh,
You,
right back at you,
you
Erica.
were here before, you guys. If you scroll way back, when was it? Like a year ago, maybe? I don't
At
even.
least, yeah, at
Yeah,
least maybe a year and a half. Yeah.
is it that long? That's been too long. Well, Heatherleigh was with me on the show, and people loved her, and so I'm having her on again. And by the way, this is just to sort of announce something that Heatherleigh you're going to be part of. But I'm having Heatherleigh back again this oh, no the 16th on Sunday, yeah, Sunday the
Yeah.
16th. And we're going to be live, which is great because you can ask us questions. We're not reading cards, just so you know. This
I
is not
mean,
that.
twist my arm and I might, but
Yeah, yeah, that. Um, well, maybe, but I'm what we would like you to do is to ask questions of a sort of a
sure.
cultural,
Yeah,
political
right.
nature. So not personal. And maybe we'll have cards, but we're also going to talk. So.
Right.
All right, so that'll be great. So, Heatherleigh, I wanted to have you on because I know that you are one of the speakers, the featured speakers at a conference that is near and dear to my heart. And I wanted my audience to be aware of it because it's coming up. It's the Kingston Tarot Lenormand Conference. Happens
Mhm,
every other year. It is
mhm,
in Kingston, Ontario. So,
mhm.
Canada. It's cold up there. And I know that the dates are November 13th through the 15th of
Yes.
this year. Now you run the Boston Tea Room, which you
Yes.
told the story last time, but you might have to tell it again
Yeah.
as to why it's called that, because you're not in Boston. You're in.
Right. Conveniently located outside of Detroit, Michigan.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. For Ferndale, Michigan, which is just a straight shot up to Kingston. So for
Yeah.
people who know Heatherleigh, and I know a lot of my viewers are familiar with you and your work, if you want to see her live in person performing with some of the greats of our industry, get up there. So Heatherleigh, what can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm so thrilled to do it. First of all, I know you know and love Marilyn Shannon,
I do.
and you can check out her website, kingstonspsychic.net. All the details about the Kingston Tarot and Lenormand conference are on that website. She even has a payment plan that I don't think it's too late to join in on. So if you don't want to pay it all up front, but she has been doing this now for it's over a decade,
Over a
right?
decade because it was every couple of years. So
Yeah.
this will be the sixth one. And I
Yeah.
was a speaker at it in 2024. So
Yeah.
some people remember me that right after the election, the next day we flew up there and then I wanted to do a video from up there and I did. I couldn't even talk. I was so choked up. I read a poem
Right.
and but I was so happy, I have to say, to get off the plane and to be amongst Canadian and American friends.
Right, right.
It
Some
was really
like-minded folks, which not everyone in the divination community is like-minded,
like,
but enough of us are that it often really feels like a safe space. And when Marilyn is running things, when she's holding that space for all of us, it truly, truly does. I'm so honored to be participating this year, not just because this is a slate filled with presenters and practitioners for whom I have a deep, abiding affection and admiration, but also because I have never been to this event as an attendee. And there have been so many times when I would look at that slate of presenters and think, I've got to go, I've got to go. And for some reason, it just never worked out timing wise for me. Your year was one of those. There have been so many years. Marilyn is great at curating groups of people, not just
absolutely.
the presenters, but the actual people that she draws in. There's just something about her charisma, her magnetism, that you just look at all the people who are attending that conference. You look at the photos from that opening ceremony outside the hotel around the compass rose right on the shore of the lake.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Great Lake girl, so I love the Great Lakes, that region. There is a particular magic about this region. We often talk about how different places have these different magical energies, right? And sometimes it's like, New Orleans, people talk about the
Right.
magic of New Orleans in that place, or whatever it is for you. For me, growing up on the shores of the Great Lakes, it's big, powerful magic. So
Wow.
to be right there on the shore of the lake with all those people, there's so many people from that region who are gathering here for that, New Yorkers, which that's a Great Lakes
Right.
state, and then you've got Lori from Ontario, so many people from that region. It's just really going to be powerful. I can already feel it every time I sit down to work on my presentation or the different exercises and kind of experiments that we're going to be playing with. I can just feel it. So
So,
I'm thrilled.
my audience is, it's huge, as you know, and really
Yes.
varied. And one of the things that I love is that there are actually a lot of people who are new to divination.
Yeah,
Maybe they've had readings or something, maybe,
sure.
but I think for a lot of people, it hasn't really occurred to them that they could pick up a deck of cards
Yeah.
and do this work. And I
Mhm.
think that the conference is such a friendly space to learn techniques, to be amongst people who maybe some of them are experts, but some of them are also newbies, some in the
Yeah.
middle, and you'll find your tribe
Yes.
and really understand that divination is, I always call it a birthright. If you're a human
Mhm.
being, you have a right to have that connection with spirit. It's just about finding your tool or your method, right?
Yeah.
This conference is a great way to do that. I just, as an aside, let me say, the food is terrific.
Well, that makes a big difference.
The
And
food
you
is
can't, that's
terrific.
not always true about a hotel venue
Yeah.
conference.
No,
You,
it's very good.
yeah, yeah,
Marilyn feeds everyone very well. There are
yeah.
also a lot of wonderful restaurants in Kingston as well.
Right,
Um,
right.
so just, yeah, I wanted to say that the hotel is great. Um,
Yeah.
it's now, is there a video? I mean, a remote?
I believe she does have an option so you can sign up and participate remotely, but don't quote me on that because
I
I
think
don't
there is
recall. I
too.
think there is.
I'll check before I,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'll let people know for sure. But if
yeah.
you can do it in person, it is absolutely worth it.
Yeah. Well, and then too, if you don't happen to be from the region, you get to feel the magic. I think place magic is something that we in the past, like maybe two generations, have really lost hold of. We've become this very kind of jet set people. And I know that when I would go to the West Coast and perform or, present at conferences on the West Coast, like the Northern California events had a very different feel than maybe the Pacific Northwest up in the Seattle area.
Right.
It's really interesting when you go, if you can connect, even if it's a hotel, you can get outside and get to the shore of that lake or put your feet in the grass. It might be a little too chilly to put your feet in the grass in
Well, it's totally.
November in Kingston, but you get to kind of feed on that as well. But yeah, if you can come remotely and virtually, again, like what you were saying, divination is a birthright of every one of us. Years ago, I was doing some research for a talk I was giving, and I found out that we have found evidence, anthropological evidence of divination practices on every single continent of this planet, with the exception of Antarctica. What that tells me is divination belongs to the global population. And so a lot of times you find some spiritual gatekeeping here and there. Now, are there closed practices? Absolutely. Are there practices that should be limited to one group of people? Certainly. And so navigating that sometimes takes a little bit of discernment and wisdom and kind of listening for when people tell you, hey, we appreciate your interest, but no, this is not that environment. This is not that community, you
Right.
know? And so it is a really kind of joyful thing to be able to be in community where there's no spiritual gatekeeping. There is a welcoming, come on in. There are people waiting to hug you. If you're a hugger, you know, we'll ask
Right.
consent.
Right.
But you know, it's really nice because for many people, when they first develop an interest in card divination or anything like that, their immediate concern is how will the people in my circle, how will my loved ones, my friends, my family accept this or not accept that? And what ramifications and consequences is that going to have on my circle of influence? And for some people, rightly so. You
Right.
know, it has certainly changed over the years. You know, when I this business has been in my family since I was 10 years old. So when I was very young and people would ask about the family business and I would say, oh, we're fortune tellers and divination and you know, we have this psychic tea room.
So
You know,
cool. Oh my
it
God.
was very like people were like, whoa.
Right.
And then, you know, 10 years later, people were like, well, you know, that's not real though, right? Or 10 years after that, they'd be like, oh yeah, something weird happened to me once. And now it's like, oh, awesome. You
Yep.
know, so it has really shifted in that almost 50 years. But some people are still in communities where maybe their faith tradition or their upbringing or cultural issues are at play where they don't feel safe talking about this stuff with their closest friends. So this is a way to kind of dip your toe in the water for some people, or just plunge in with a giant, exuberant cannonball into this world, surrounded by people who are going to support you in that and not question it or demonize it or villainize it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. I've been several times. I think I've been maybe three times, three out of the six
Mhm.
times, and
Yeah.
had a wonderful time each time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's really,
are you at liberty to talk about what you're going to be presenting or not?
I am. And you know, this is always challenging because Marilyn is great at giving people plenty of lead time. So
Yeah,
I've known for quite a number of months that I was going to be
I
presenting
remember
this,
that. Yeah.
right? And so I love that. On the one hand, I love that, but the way I work when I'm engaging in creative things like this, projects like this, is that it is often an ongoing project. I can't just create something and then set it aside and say, oh, well, I'll come back to that on November 12th when I get on the plane. No, so I have tweaked it several times, you know, and it keeps evolving. But the general premise is I have found myself, it always starts out as very personal to me, but then I think, okay, what's an aspect of this personal experience that I'm having that has a little more universal applicability, that you know everyone can kind of relate to this in some way or another. And for me, it had to do with liminal spaces, finding myself in the in between in several areas of my life, kind of all at the same time, and not being really comfortable in the in between. You know, I always want what's next, or I want to hold on what I maybe should be stepping away from because I like the stability, but really it's just an illusion of stability. So it has to do with using tarot and Lenormand in order to help us navigate those liminal spaces, not get stuck in them, but help us determine, do I need to rest here? Do I need to stay in the liminal and kind of curl up and find some healing and wholeness here before I move on? Or should I really light a fire under my own behind and get to whatever's next and find out what that is?
Well, I
So
know that Marilyn has, because I remember doing it myself, has presenters do a little sort of an appetizer, which you
yeah.
did. And
Mhm.
I attended that. It was a virtual thing, and it was
You.
really good. I mean,
Same.
I think if if you go for no other reason than Heatherleigh, it'll be absolutely worth it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I loved that. I loved that presentation that you gave.
Yeah,
about
it was
personality.
really surprising to me because I thought of it as a very playful topic, but it did that little appetizer, that exercise that we did, it got deep very quickly. And I found people sharing things that were quite intimate and very, very real. And I love that to the point where Marilyn said, you know what, we're not going to share this recording with the whole group because
I
we're going to
remember.
maintain people's, which I thought was really sweet. But, to your point about, it would be worth it to go just for me. That's where you and I's opinions differ. If it were just me, I would say don't bother. But, again, going back to Marilyn curating
She
these
does a
really,
wonderful job.
she's so good. And she gets people whose personalities work well together. I was thinking about this particular lineup. I'm really blessed to already know all three of the women who will also be presenting and to have a little personal experience with each of them. And they're all so different. Donna de la Rose is going to be presenting. And what I love about her is she always has this very light-hearted, I kind of think of like she has like a feather light deftness with her touch when she's presenting. She always has a smile on her face. She's always keeping it gentle and really accessible, which I
I can
love.
tell a story about Donnelly. So
Yeah.
when I came into this world of divination, I mean, I didn't know anything about anything. I was old at that point, not as old as I am now, but in my 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that I started is I read what there was to read, which was there was not much at that time on Lenormand. And then I would go on forums and I would read for free for people from all over the world. And I did it for two reasons. One is that, it grew my lexicon of Lenormand language and it
Sure.
helped people, right? It was just, and then I started to hear from people. And so two of the people that I heard from very early on, Carrie Paris,
Yeah.
who has spoken also at
Yes.
Kingston before, and um and and Donna Lay private messaged me and said, I see what you're doing and you're doing a great job and keep it up. And she was so kind.
Yeah.
So and of course I've met her since. And she has a video series that's
Hmm.
been on YouTube for like, I mean, forever.
Yeah.
That will teach you how to memorize the Lenormand deck in like half an hour.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, one of those videos. Yes, I mean that's what I use to memorize the numbers and the names of the cards. Yes.
Okay.
So
All right.
she's terrific. And then I want to say a word about Marilyn, who runs
Mm-hmm.
the conference. So my very first time going to the conference, I was a guest of Carrie Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know Marilyn, and I didn't have to pay for anything. It was really nice of Marilyn to kind of comp me that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just sitting in the dining room at one point by myself. That was in between things, and Marilyn came over to me, and she knew that I was. This is years ago. He knew that I was a new widow, and knew that I was. I mean, I was just still flummoxed by the whole thing because it was sudden and I'd been married
Yeah.
for years. And she told me her own story of
Mhm.
widowhood. And basically her point was, there is life after that, and you get to decide what it looks like.
Mhm.
She was very gentle, she was very kind, and just told me this story. She didn't have to do that. She was busy running the conference, but
Right.
it was such a catalyst for me, in
Yeah.
so many ways. I think that this divination world, there's a lot of kooks. Well, I don't think a lot of kooks. There's kooks, but there are people who are so warm and wonderful and embracing. And you
Yeah.
will find them at this conference. And
It's
Heatherleigh,
true.
I've known you a while as well. You're one of those warm, embracing, honest, forthright people. And I love that about you.
Well,
And
thank you.
Lori Lytle will also be a speaker,
Oh
and
my
she's
gosh. And
terrific.
the symbolism that she brings to it, she has like this really great way of tying tarot and divination into like talismans, like creating a
Yes.
personal talisman for yourself. Just the little things like the jewelry she chooses to adorn herself with always has this really significant meaning. Like her connection to symbolism, which I think we all have like an innate relationship to symbolism, whether we know it or not. Many of us are very unconscious of it, but we're choosing things to put on our bodies, to put on ourselves every day. Hers is so consciously thought out, and she brings that awareness of how incorporating different symbols into our personal life can like have a dramatic impact on our
Absolutely.
sense of wellness. So I love that she is, she's an ordained minister. She creates celebrations of life for people. She creates weddings and marriages. Like she's so good at creating ritual to apply to our otherwise mundane lives. That's one thing that I truly appreciate about
Well,
her.
she's great. I've had her on the channel, you all. So just scroll back and you can find Lori Lytle on the channel.
Yeah.
And I met her my first year at Kingston. I met her and her sister, and
Okay.
I've never laughed so hard as I did with them.
Yeah.
So she's great too. And the third person is
So Carolyn
Carolyn
Cushing.
Cushing.
Now, Carolyn Cushing is someone I met at some events in New York, but for her, the thing that really stands out for me with Carolyn is depth.
Mm.
Like she has this gentleness and this compassion. And when I first met her, I was going to say when you first meet her, but I don't know what anybody else's experience with first meeting Carolyn is. I know when I first met her, I thought, oh, isn't she sweet? And then, within 10 minutes of talking with her, we were talking about some really deep concepts and some of it was to go back to your point about, losing a partner, losing a spouse. It was grief and loss. That was something very fresh in her life that had just gone on right around the time that I met her. And how she was choosing to both honor that time and also honor the healing without trying to like speed it up to make anybody else more comfortable, but to really sit with and honor what does it mean to us as human beings to have connected so deeply and to have lost that connection, and how do we carry on in the face of almost unimaginable loss and reconnect with others in a way that honors those that have gone before. Like she's magical. So you
Right.
can see all three of these women. I'm like, if I weren't going to be there, you still want to go because they're
Well,
amazing.
I know
Amazing.
it's going to be a wonderful event. I mean,
Yeah.
it always is, and particularly I think this year is going to be really a good one.
Yeah, I think so too.
I will have all of the information in the show notes, as they say,
Yeah.
so that you can contact Marilyn if you're interested. There is a payment plan. Um, what else? Again, the date's November 13th through the 15th.
And I think a lot of people are coming early on Thursday so that everybody can be really settled in and grounded. And I know a bunch of people will be going out to dinner that Thursday night at some local restaurant and all
Yeah, there's
that.
a lot of good restaurants in Kingston. Yeah,
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 yeah.
a lot.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Heatherleigh, thank you for coming on and just letting people know about the conference. And, I wanted them to see you again and know, no, she's going to be one of the presenters. And as I said, the last time you were on, people loved you. They
Oh,
loved you.
thanks.
And so that's why I thought, well, you know what? Let's do a live because
Yeah,
that way, we can really have a conversation and have a conversation with the audience because,
yeah.
these are hard times, I think, for everybody, and we're all trying to figure out how to navigate it.
They are very challenging times, but I know if I'm sitting down with you to talk about it, we're going to get real very quickly. We're not going to stay on the surface,
Right.
and it's going to get real juicy, which is what I
Yes.
like.
And hopefully people will come away feeling, uplifted and empowered and as they did the last time. So,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add about the conference?
Not specifically about the conference, but what I will say is if you're on the fence about it and thinking about it, I know on her website there's a bunch of testimonials of other people who have attended. So definitely check that out and see if that helps you make a decision. And then I wanted to say to you, happy belated birthday. Didn't you have a birthday
Thank you,
yesterday?
girl. I'm 70.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
As I said on screen, I do a thing every week with an Australian tarotist, and we just have a conversation every Wednesday night. And I said, I can't say I'm middle-aged anymore. And she said, no, and not unless you're planning to live to be 140. So yeah, but happy to be here. Happy to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I look forward to speaking with you again on the 16th.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. So you guys, the 16th, it's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific, uh,
Mhm.
which is what, 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Eastern.
Eastern. Yeah, for
Yeah,
folks who are on my side of the country.
right. It's a Sunday. It'll be a live. Of course, I'll have the little promo up for it, and we'd love to see you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Heatherleigh.
Thank you for having me, Erica.
All right, see you guys soon. Take care.